And that would be the calibration of energy, of science. They now have these machines that don't let anything else in, and they can calibrate the frequency of emotions, love, fear, revenge, happy. Well, this made me so crazy happy I couldn't even believe it. They have calibrated the frequency of being authentic, being yourself, even when your hair isn't cooperating, just being you, right? Enjoying it. It's 4 times higher than the frequency of love. Authenticity is 4 times higher frequency than love.
Really? Enjoy this Wild Soul Gathering production. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie. Pour yourself a really tall glass of spiritual curiosity and join me for the Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast. In the spirit of happy hour, cheers to some new insights, peace, revitalization, and perhaps an aha moment that may change your life. What if divine guidance wasn't just a fleeting moment, but something you could tap into daily? In today's show, I'm joined by Karoleen Fober, an intuitive business and life mastery coach, divine energy reader, and the author of Opening Divine Intervention. Karoleen has spent over 2 decades helping people strengthen their spiritual connection, trust their intuition, and align their lives with divine wisdom. Today, we're going to explore how to recognize this divine intervention, activate intuitive abilities, and break free from limiting patterns. Get ready for an enlightening conversation that just might shift the way you see the world and yourself. Welcome, Karoleen.
Thank you so much.
You've spent over 2 decades helping people strengthen their spiritual connection. Was there a defining moment in your life when you knew divine intervention was real?
Well, I had lots of experiences. I've actually had over 450. I've kind of stopped counting, but I started putting them into categories just to help me understand. But I would say that what really got my attention was 25 years ago, January 15th of 2000. And I was in a group and there was a divine energy reader there. And she said, "You are going to write a book and it will be important for the world." And then I got 2 more readings over the next 18 years that said the same thing. I wasn't signing up for this, but I was willing and it didn't go away. Something resonated, it struck me. And so I certainly wondered about it. And then in 2017, I said, well, I don't really know what this book is about, but I think I should just start writing down all of my divine interventions. I think that would be a good thing to do. I thought maybe I'd have about 20. And in about 20 minutes, I had 30. And then over the next couple of weeks, it became 50. And then, so January of 2018, I basically was looking at the list pretty much right here in my office. And all of a sudden, each divine intervention started almost like a gold cord was connecting all of them. And I felt like they were encircling me. And in fact, I'm feeling the energy again, just talking about it. And it was like this huge energy swirl. And I said, oh my God, this is the book. It's about all the divine interventions. So that just grabbed my attention. And it kind of, yes, I coach, but I knew that I was going to be reaching maybe a new audience with a more specific focus on teaching people how to connect spiritually and really wake people up, because everyone's having divine interventions. It's just they might refer to it as, oh, that was crazy, or that was a fluke, or, the coincidence. That I remind everybody, well, coincide means to fit together perfectly. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you embraced that divine guidance when it was given to you. You didn't necessarily buy in right away. It might have been oh, really? Okay. Many people fear surrendering to their divine guidance. How can they learn to trust it without resistance?
Yeah, and I love your word of surrender, and that is the key word. And that it may feel scary. It's kind of like you're going to fall backwards. Are you going to be caught? But what I discovered in when I would get information for other people and doing divine readings for other people, in the beginning, I thought, what if this is wrong? But I began to just share the information, and time after time after time, people related to it. They were shocked with the information. I was shocked with the information because a lot of the times I don't know what that beginning information actually even means. It starts kind of filling in down as we keep going. But I realized that I had had a divine reading after my mom died, and I wanted to connect to my mom. I was so sad. I was pretty depressed
Yeah.
for about 2 years, and I was desperate. And so I was talking to God one day, and I said, you know what? I don't know all about this mediumship part of it, but if you think if you think I will be helped by having a divine reading, I'm saying yes. And 2 weeks later, I ran into someone and then was connected to someone. I was going to sign up with Teresa Caputo. I was ready to get on a plane and fly to Long Island.
Wow.
And then her TV show said that she had a 2 year wait. And I said, I'm so depressed. I don't have 2 years. So, yeah. But I
So you
also,
had one of those coincidences when you ran into a medium 2 weeks later, huh?
yes, it was actually a friend that invited me to an event that didn't want to go. I was still very depressed. If it wasn't for my clients or family, I was in bed. And so I just told her, "Oh, yes, how nice." And then the day of it, I felt like I was being gently moved right out of bed. Like, I don't really want to go. But I took the shower, I arrived, and in that group of people, there was a woman about 7 seats away from me, and I just couldn't take my eyes off of her. And she kept looking at me. And then after the gathering, I went right up to her and I said, "Hi." I said, "I feel like I'm supposed to talk to you." And she goes, "I feel the same way." And she said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I mean, I'm a business coach." I didn't really say I was an intuitive, even though I am. And I said, what do you do?" And she goes, "Well, I'm a medium." And I just looked up and said, "Thank you." Yeah.
Wow. So was there ever a time that you didn't follow that divine nudge or that divine direction? And how did that look?
Yeah. And some of us have some bad experiences when we ignore um,
Yeah, I can
the
speak from
spiritual
experience.
partnership. I was in a car, and heard I get a lot of message auditorily, and I heard this voice say, "You're that car is going to hit you." And I just go into my left brain, my logical brain. I said, "Oh, I think I'll be fine." I said, "I'm not going to slow down too much," because I couldn't see the vehicle. There was a building in front of it. I saw it way out, but it hit me. I went Everything went dark, and I felt spinning. And I I don't have any memory of what happened until I woke up. My car was about a mile down the road,
Oh, wow.
idling, going the opposite way on the left side of the road. And if you really think about how I was hit, I should have gone probably that way into the cornfield. Later, to the same medium where I had my first mediumship reading, I asked her about that because I just felt it was from my maternal grandfather's side. And she said they're speaking Gaelic, and he was born in Ireland. So I
Okay.
knew that I had been helped. I'd been warned, and I kind of disregarded that. So that was a big lesson. I was fine. You should have seen the car. Everybody came up to me later and said, "We thought you were dead." The car looked really bad. But I also wanted to say, when I was 8, this is when I knew things. I was about 3rd grade, and we were out in the playground, and this kid was telling some story about what they'd done that weekend, and he said, "And you know what happened after that?" And I said, "Yes, that happened." And there was about 8 or 10 kids, and they said, "How do you know that?" And I was shocked that they didn't know it. So that was my first experience of really knowing, oh, something's tuned in here. And so I went a little quiet, but I didn't disregard it. I just didn't share anything about that until much later. And that's the thing. I've read where somewhere around the age of 6 to 8, children kind of give up, or they put it on the back burner. I believe I believe spiritual communication is our original language, and it never goes away. It just kind of goes on the back burner. And so I I realized that so many people I talk to, friends and strangers alike, I've asked them about their kids, their grandkids, and they said, "Oh yeah, one was seeing an orb, and we saw an orb in a picture." They were talking about grandpa and what he looked like, and he'd been dead for 20 years. So it's something that I think is just, we have TV shows. It's something that we're finally embracing.
Yeah. We're willing to have the conversation.
Absolutely. And
I
share
love
our
it.
stories, share our experiences. And that's what I said. If I had one experience, maybe a couple, I think 450, and they keep coming. That, I think I stopped the 450 somewhere a couple years ago. Um, and when I focus and ask other people to focus, because a lot of people say, "Oh no, I've never had anything miraculous happen to me," and I said, "Wow." I don't buy it. So I
Hmm.
kind of take them down memory lane, and I said, "I just can't believe that nothing amazing has happened to you that you can't quite explain." And then suddenly they're focusing, and they go, "Oh." And one woman who denied it, she was getting angry. "I've never had anything divine happen to me." I just said, "I just find that so hard to believe." And then I just let her think about it a while. And she says, "Oh my goodness." I said, "What?" She said, "When I was 8 or 9, my mom gave me a letter to mail. And so I walked down the street, put it in the little mailbox, and I saw a man in a white van. And he had his door open, and he said, 'Come over here. I want to show you something.'" And she heard, there was no one around, but she heard a very strong, loud voice say, "You are in danger. Run." And she ran home. And I said, "Wow, what a story." I said, "That's a life-saving story potentially." And
Yeah.
so I think we forget. I think we poo-poo. And yet, if we open up to the things that we just can't quite explain, even the smallest ones, I think it opens the door to expand.
I agree. In your book opening, Divine Intervention, it suggests that we can invite this divine energy into our lives. What are some unexpected ways the divine speaks to us?
Well, a million ways. We do have the different ways where we might see something visually that maybe others can't see. We can hear things. We can know things. And then really the most popular, almost everybody can feel things. And our body, to me, is like a tuning fork. And so if we're all made up of electromagnetic energy, and like a magnet, those, we're going to get impulses, we're going to get signals. And so I just say, imagine you are that signal, and everything is connected to you. well, then it's very logical that we would be getting messages in lots of different ways. But angels can show up. We can be looking for some guidance, and a book falls out of the library shelf. A friend says something to us that gets our attention and startles us a little bit. There's just, there's so many ways. And a lot of people say, well, is it just my imagination? Is it my thought? I mean, how do I decide what this is? And I said, well, it's kind of like my car and how it works. I said, I'm not the person to let's open up the trunk or the lid here and just I'm going to tell you all about it. Now there's experts that know all about it, and we actually have science that's bringing in lots of pieces to support our spiritual communication. But I'm the person that's so interested in what are you getting, and let's see if it's something that could be really helpful to you. If Because why would we be getting the information? Why would I have been told that car's going to hit you? Well, to try to help me. So if we understand that this is all for helping you, supporting you, guiding you, loving you, that to me is the higher approach to looking at some of this information.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times we just need to pay more attention. We have so much distraction, especially those of us in Western cultures. In our world, there's a lot of noise. Anywhere you go, there's a number of TVs on the walls all playing. And, it's hard to really sometimes focus and connect the dots because we're so distracted. So we talked already about divine intervention and the randomness, that it's not random, synchronicities and coincidences. And I loved your explanation with the coincide. Is there something that we can consciously cultivate, do to consciously cultivate our awareness and be
Abs-
more in tuned?
Absolutely. As I was, teaching people and trying to help them really expand their spiritual abilities, I started kind of looking at what are the components. And I came up with this acronym of ACUTE. The A stands for to accept it. Because when you can bring it into your world, so to speak, like I accept this can happen, you're going to be more focused. You're going to be more aware. The C in acute is to claim it, because it's one thing to know and accept it. It's another thing to say, oh, yes, I can do it. It's like a child that's learning how to read or, add numbers. At first, the first time you do some of these things, you are worried about being wrong. You're not sure you can do it, but you start making attempts. And but you have to claim that you can. That allows you to say, okay, let's see, what was that? Bring it into your world, so to speak. And then the U is for utilization of all the tools, the tips, and the strategies. And then the T is for trust. It's back to your surrender. We really have to realize that we are spiritual beings in this body. There is the physical world, but we have the spiritual world as well, and they're together here, not just the physical world. And we haven't really been educated on it to the fullest extent. So the E then is to enjoy it, because that's full acceptance when you can say, wow, that was really cool. A lot of people are afraid of it, but that's just our historical wrestling and issues with it. People that were trying to control people, like you shouldn't do that. But how do you control it? I mean, I'm not controlling anything, nor is anyone else. It's just happening. And so it's kind of like, are you open? Are you listening? The phone is ringing. Are you going to answer it? So, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of those messages do come through phones.
They do.
actually,
They
and
do.
energetically.
Yeah.
So I think you hit on a couple of things. I think shedding all these beliefs that we are full of that weigh us down, that either come from families, from society, from cultures, about what we should, what we shouldn't, what is real and what isn't real, is something that it's time to shed a lot of that. And
Mhm.
it's starting to get attention. And you says, well, when you said we're really not, there's not education out there, I don't think we've ever been educated on any of this. Like, these things are concepts, from for the most part, in my experience, people go searching for.
Yeah.
And I tell the story of Reiki, when I was, given my message to become a Reiki master, and I was like, I've never even heard this word, like Reiki. How do you spell it? I don't know if it was before Google, like it was a while back, but I literally could not find any information on this Reiki. Like, what was it? What was it about? How do you study it? Where could you find a teacher? It literally took me a year to find a Reiki class in
Wow.
the city that I lived in at that time to learn it. And I mean, now it's very common. It's integrated into society, and classes are a dime a dozen, so to speak. And if you put it into the computer, you would get a ton of information. But it really wasn't that long ago that there really wasn't any information out there on it. So kudos to you for putting yourself out there for decades of teaching and being a provider of that information and facilitating and writing the book. The other thing I would say is, I definitely am your doubting Thomas person, or historically have been so. It's interesting, as I say those words, I think that I might have shed a lot of that in the more recent evolutions that I've been through. But when I did learn Reiki and went through the process and became a Reiki master, it just seemed so foreign to me that I could do these things. And I remember sitting on the couch. The grandkids were young at the time, like, maybe 3 and 5. So I would, like, shoot this Reiki, this energy out to them from the couch, and they would turn around and say, Mimi, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And then I'd look at my hands and go, did I just do that? So they'd turn around and they'd start playing. And of course, I'd be behind them with my hands up. And, they turn around again and they said, what are you doing? You're doing something to us. And I was like, oh my God, this is like real. And, I had other experiences the more I used it and the more I practiced with my mother. I remember her with her earache, and she was like so desperate. And I'm like, well, I can do some Reiki on you if you'd like. And she was like, fine, do it. And then she'd be like, what are you doing to me? Like, it's so hot. It's like you're putting fire into my ear. And I'm like, I just have my hand on the side of your head. And then I thought, how, like, I don't feel any heat coming off my hand, but she's telling me that I'm shooting fire into her ear. So, that was it's almost like a baby learning to walk, right? So you're given the skills. Well, innately, we have this all the time now looking back at it, but we're taught how to harness it and use it. And then it's accepting, as you said, owning it, claiming it, that, hey, yeah, I guess I can do this, and something is happening and it is real. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And it's so beneficial. I mean, I built my business utilizing all of these concepts and reading energy. And I tell people, everyone's reading energy. It's how you picked your partner. It's how you picked what put on to wear today. Because we're energetic beings, we sense things. And when you kind of make it so basic, which it really is, you realize that it opens up the feeling. When I'm doing a reading, I teach as I do it, because part of my hope and focus is that people do expand their abilities and spiritual communication. And so I I say, oh, did you feel that? You know, because I'll feel something. Let's say a loved one comes through, and they'll go through my body. I will feel that, and so I will ask people, and then I'll say, "Where is it?" So I'm helping them connect to who they really are. But if you don't know that you're like this kind of beam of light that's electromagnetic and be able to pick up so much, then it's it's shocking. And then, like your example, in fact, it's not only shocking, but it's actually it begins to get kind of fun. It's kind of like you get on the bicycle the first time because you see your brother doing it. You
Yeah.
go, that looks like fun. I want to get on the bicycle. Oh, well, then there's balance, and then there's lots of things to where your feet are and all this. So in anything once we come here, we're learning. We have to learn how to talk, but we don't have to learn how to do this. It's just it went to the back burner. It's like if we grew up in a different country that spoke a different language, and then when you were 2 or 3, you moved, let's say, to the United States. And so everybody's now talking English. You're learning that because no one is talking the spiritual thing that goes over there. It doesn't go away. It just kind of fades into the background. And so it's exciting for people when they go, I do feel it. And I do
Yeah.
feel the presence of my son, that died on the porch. When I go to the front porch, I feel like he's there. I said, well, then that is where he's at. But you can also feel them anytime, anywhere, if you pay attention to what you are getting and then open up a little bit to expand it. I remember when I first started doing psychometry, which is utilizing an object. Let's say this, it's a stapler, and maybe it was my grandmother's, which it wasn't, but I'm just giving the example. But I could hold that and probably get information because if this had been my grandmother's, her energy would have been in there. And so I remember the first time I said, I'd been thinking about doing psychometry for probably 2 years. But still, I was a little bit cautious because I thought, what if I can't do it? I don't want to be disappointed, even though I could do all these other things, right? So it's funny how we talk ourselves out of things. So I just said, that's it. I want to. So I called a friend and I said, do you have any, of your loved ones' clothing or jewelry? And she said, yes. I said, would you be willing to do an experiment with me? I said, I just can't take it. She's a really good friend of mine. I said, but don't tell me anything about it, whose it is, what it is, anything. Just hold it. So she went and got that. And we were both on cell phones. And I didn't know how that would work because a lot of times I've seen psychometry done with the person right in front of you and holding the actual object, but she was holding the object. Anyway, I was fearless. And so she was holding something and I said, wow. I said, I feel like a door is beginning to open, but it's only opening like 3 inches. And I said, and it's not about the door, it's about the person. Because remember when I said in the beginning how I start getting things and then it just starts filling in. So I don't know everything right away, but eventually the puzzle's put together. And I said, oh, she's talking about her personality, where she was closed off to even her family. And
Oh.
she said, am I supposed to tell you anything yet? I said, yes, you can tell me if that's right or wrong. And she said, yes, we loved her so much, but she always she kept you away. And she's saying that she regrets that, but that was just how it was for her for whatever reason. And then I said, oh my gosh, I see fire. And I said, she goes, where? And I said, it's outside. It's like there's these fires all around outside. And I said, it's something to do very important to her. I don't know why the fire, but these fires are very important to her and her life. And she goes, can I tell you? And I said, yes. She said, oh, she was like a Girl Scout person, and she took them all outside. They were always having campfires. And then I said, and I kept going like this. She didn't see me, but I kept going like this, just in my office, over and over. And then I said, I do not know what you're holding, but I keep, it's like I'm holding on to something. I don't know, like a rim or something. And it's soft and it's thin. And I just keep going over and over. So whatever you're holding, is there anything that makes sense about that? Because I felt like it had to do with what she was holding. She said, I'm holding a felt hat of this person. And she had been sitting there going across the rim, just her
Uh-huh.
self doing that. So it's just surprising. And I did it just because I was so curious and I'd seen other people do it. And there you go.
Well, I love so curiosity, and that's what this podcast is all about, is to draw people who are curious. I think curiosity, especially in the times we are in, is really important, to be asking questions and to be exploring and to be doing those things. And as I was listening to you talk, what I realized is I think a lot of this was packaged differently. So I remember back in my corporate days, one of my gifts was being able to go into the meeting or the boardroom and be able to read the room, like really read the room
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And as you were talking, I thought, now I would have never packaged it back, and that was like one of my superpowers. You know how you always say you have superpowers in your
Yes.
workplace? And I thought, I would have never thought of that as a divine intervention or spiritual or energy work back at that time. But that's exactly what it was. So these things have been talked about and packaged very differently in different, in different areas of our life that we have in. And I think now it's just the Band-Aids being pulled off of it for what it is. Like if you went into the corporate world now and talked about reading a room, there would definitely be a significant percentage of those people that you would be talking about that would know that you're reading the energy of the room and what that
Yes.
energy was related to with that. So that being said, man, lots happening in our world, right? And our work is, like, I think, just moving up the food chain more and more and more in its value and importance that, we always have known that it's been there. Consciousness really seems to be shifting globally. What do you believe is the next evolution in the human spiritual awareness?
Well, I agree with what you just said. And I believe that more and more people are going front and center with it. I believe that they're realizing they're missing the boat. They've and I mean Einstein said it. He said intuition is the only real thing. Stephen Jobs said it. His quote, I think, was, it's more powerful. Intuition is more powerful than intellect. And I really think what's going to happen, and what I see happening and experiencing with other people, is I'm helping people balance it. So if the left brain is our logical brain, and this is where science comes in, they know this, and our right brain is the intuitive side, that instead of 95% of the time staying there where everything has to be logical, I have to know exactly why everything is going. And if you can't prove it to me, well, and then with the intuitive, people they think about 5%. So it's 95.5, and it's meant
Oh,
to be balanced.
of
And I
course.
read somewhere, I can't quote it, but I don't know if they did an autopsy, but I read that they did an autopsy on Einstein's brain, and they said they saw the connectivity. They had never seen a brain, whatever connectivity means when you're seeing it, they'd never
Hmm.
seen a brain so connected. The left and the right brain connected. That got me really excited.
Well,
So,
that is interesting.
yeah,
I'm a big science. I come from a big science background, and I love how science and spirituality are connecting all over the place.
yes.
Yeah, I wonder if we evolved that connection away. That's interesting that you
Well,
say that. Sorry about that. I'm like visualizing this.
yeah.
That's
Well,
fascinating.
it's very fascinating. And when you realize that they're saying the left brain is being used 95% of the time, and the right brain is being used 5% of the time, think about it. I mean, even through my whole entire education, just growing up, if you had a vision or something you couldn't prove, it might get laughed at, and
Right.
especially in the scientific world. So it was like everybody didn't give it its due, but it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be there if we weren't supposed to be using it, right? And so some of those strategies, um, people say that, oh, I don't believe in any of this, and that would be the calibration of energy of science. They now have these machines that don't let anything else in, and they can calibrate the frequency of emotions, love, fear, revenge, and they go, well, happiness. Well, this made me so crazy happy I couldn't even believe it. They have calibrated the frequency of being authentic, being yourself, even when your hair isn't cooperating, just being you, right? Enjoying it. It's 4 times higher than the frequency of love. Authenticity is 4 times higher frequency than love.
Really?
They would hear, go this route instead of this route. I mean, they were being guided, protected, and loved, I believe, since the beginning of time. And so I do believe it's a matter of education, but it's also a matter of accepting, and then let's work it. It's like having these muscles that, it's like having 2 legs and we're only using one. So it's a real invitation. I think it's a real beautiful invitation for everybody to start opening to the possibilities that, wow, because now we have TV shows, now we have podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
now we have books. And I remember some of 3 of my favorite authors, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay. She was really into metaphysical healing,
Mm-hmm.
and
They're like the pioneers out there.
and then Neil Donald Walsh. And it's and that's one of the things that I was utilizing with all my clients 25 years ago. I mean, we were manifesting major stuff. I mean, to be able to double your income in 2 to 8 weeks, just like that. So it's exciting, it's fun, and it works. So I don't mess with something that works.
So you were able to integrate your abilities as a divine energy reader. You talked a little bit about you have a number of modalities that you perceive with, and you
Yes.
brought that into corporate America, so to speak.
Yes, I take it with me wherever I go. And interestingly enough, when you talk one on one with a person and you talk about some of these issues, they know exactly what you're talking about. I've had very few people. I did have one person from China because they don't have any, gods or anything like that. They're not allowed, at least in the how many last, 50 years or 60 years, whatever it's been. And so I was telling her about what I do, and she goes, like, that sounds so fantastic. And I go, well, don't you know about this? And she said, zero. She knew nothing about it. But everyone else I've ever talked to, I just go from the place of, I grew up on a farm. Everything is very simple and basic to me. It doesn't need to be hard. I'm a teacher. So, and I like to have fun. So I think when you bring that type of energy to anyone or any place, it's easier to accept. It's like bringing the cookies with you. This is going to be good, people. and so, I'm not trying to change anybody's, I'm not trying to prove anything, but I
Sure.
am here to certainly teach anyone that's interested. Um, and it's so fun. And I say, look, this doesn't cost, I mean, to do some of the things we're doing. No, I mean, you spend thousands of dollars on doing certain marketing strategies and hiring people to do all these things. And I say, well, you have a spiritual team and they're there 24/7. They don't sleep. Okay. And they're available. And I love that. And when you start talking about how available, how beneficial it is, I say, hey, is it just me or is this the only game in town? I can't, I'm perplexed. So I'm that person that I'm not going to say, oh, I hope, that this is interesting to you. I'm like, oh, this is the most interesting thing we could be talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm very, I'm not going to back down on that. We don't have to talk about it. But if I have a chance to help somebody with it, oh, well, this is what we're going to be doing. And my
Okay.
grandkids, they all have pendulums, they know. And they like the idea that when grandma transforms, I'll be available.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandkids are into crystals and they have their pendulums, and I got talked to a few times after I watched them. But you know what? They're older now, and it's all good. It's just, I think, part of the times. So, what would you say are some of the signs that someone might need some energetic healing, and what can they do to realign themselves?
Absolutely. Well, negative energy is it's the big culprit. So that goes way back to Louise Hay and metaphysics. What you're thinking creates reality. I encourage people to meditate and to pray and to get quiet, because when you meditate, they know this scientifically. When you meditate, the brain goes neutral. It becomes just aligned, that easy energy. And a lot of people that, let's say, are very distractible or very into negative energy, like worrying, anxiety, all of those things. Well, if you even just do your best at meditating, everybody's scared they're going to do that wrong too. I go, no, no, you can do the dishes. I'm meditating, while I'm drying my hair. Just relax, just soothe yourself. We as a society, we really aren't very good at soothing ourselves. What do we do
Mm.
when a baby cries? Well, we check, did we feed it? Do they need their diaper change? But we're soothing that baby. We're going to rock it. We're going to pat its little back. We're going to sing a lullaby to it. So we need to get much better at monitoring our own energy. And I challenge my clients, I challenge anyone. I said, you know what? I'm like you. I can get ticked off about anything, but I have gotten better and better and better over time of getting less triggered. And if I am triggered, I have enough, reminders that I've coached myself. I walk the talk, that I say, okay, give yourself 5 minutes. Go and just, have a little pity party. With clients, I've even said, okay, I'm timing you for 2 minutes if they come to the call kind of crabby.
Mhm.
Oh, great. You got 2 minutes. Just say anything you want. I don't care. Just, and they start laughing because they realize how ridiculous that is. So we want to realize that our major job is to feel good, because if you feel good, the feeling is the magnetism. The
Yes.
feeling is what you're bringing in. So if you're feeling bad, and rightly so, we are human beings, we feel pain, all of this, but you want to just get back to center as soon as you can. Meditation, close your eyes, just relax, rock yourself. I mean, I do that. So really get good at soothing yourself, praying, asking for help, creating, really giving credence and honor to the spiritual team that we're all given. I talk to my spiritual team more than I talk to my husband. I'm talking to my spiritual team all the time, and they're sharing their information with me. That's why I rely on it. I mean, that's why I say, oh, I'm getting a message for a client, and they're going, wow, what? Boom. Now, I do have people say, well, what if do you ever worry that it's wrong? I said, I did initially, just like I was afraid I was going to fall off the bike initially. I'm not afraid I'm going to fall off the bike anymore. It took 2 years to learn how to drive. We think I can't be her, so I'm not going to do it. I was the
Right.
girl that I was the girl that didn't think you know, my first reading, that I was given a reading. She said after the reading, "Oh, you're just like me." And I said, "Oh, I was in denial." I said, "I don't think so." That was me.
Mm.
So I relate to people when they're like, "Oh, I don't think so." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
no, you
Mm.
can't tell me you're not."
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in unique times. We're definitely in very unique times.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna ask this question again. We've been talking about it, but I think it needs to just be spoken and spoke to again because people really need to hear it. Fear seems to have taken center stage these days for many globally. How do
Yes.
we help people move from fear and resistance into trust and flow?
That is it's the perfect question. Um, I remind people, you are creating your own world. You are responsible for a certain amount of things. Things that you're not responsible for, you can send energy to that. But we teach children at a very young age to learn how to soothe ourselves, learn how to, mind over matter. We are co-creators with the great creator. And when you understand that, and when you realize and accept who you really are as a co-creator, you will realize, if I'm feeling bad, it's because I'm creating that. So I really invite people, if you want your health to be better, if you want everything to be better, if you want to manifest everything you want to stay in the happy place. You want, and if there's something, I mean, I'm praying, I'm asking for miracles all the time. But I'm doing a an alignment appointment this in a couple of days, and I'm going to be asking for a miracle for this particular situation. So I'm asking for miracles all the time. That's communicating. We need help. I can't fix all these global problems, but we can ask for help. We can be very appreciative. We can stay aligned to keep ourselves, you know, maintaining our health. Dis-ease is not being at ease. So don't be frightened. I don't even worry about really my health. My doctor's more worried about my health than I am. He goes, "You need to have a colonoscopy." And I said, well, it feels pretty. I think the little I know about it seems kind of invasive, and I don't feel like I need it. If I sensed I need it, I'd be signing up. But I really take responsibility for my own energy and my own life, and it's up to me. Even when my husband is talking about something I wish he'd stop talking about, I go, "Wow, I love this pen. I am refocusing myself, and I'm darn good at it." So I challenge everybody, get better. Get better at refocusing yourself on what is good for you. Help people, pray for people, but don't get in their mud puddle. I don't get in people's issues only to understand it, maybe. But then I'm up here. I say we need to live in the higher frequency. So if this is a problem area, I'm going up. The other thing, and your listeners, I hope, are going to love this one. And this is the special message that before I came on today's call, I said, what would be the best number one thing I could share? And that would be the calibration of energy. Speaking of science, they now have these machines that don't let anything else in, and they can calibrate the frequency of emotions, love, fear, revenge, happy. Well, this made me so crazy happy I couldn't even believe it. They have calibrated the frequency of being authentic, being yourself, even when your hair isn't cooperating, just being you, right? Enjoying it. It's 4 times higher than the frequency of love. Authenticity is 4 times higher frequency than love.
Really?
That is why the Beatles kept going. I think, I don't know, 50 or 100 people said, that doesn't sound very good. Jack Canfield and the Chicken Soup for the Souls, I think they went
Oh,
to
yeah.
116 publishers. Now went, who knew?
Yeah.
It's,
That's a remarkable journey.
yeah. So don't worry about what everyone else is thinking. I've had people say, "Oh, I'm really concerned for you, Karoleen," and I go, "Well," I said, "if you want to, go ahead, but I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting?" And yeah, if I think somebody did something weird, I can go there. I'm human. I'm not like a robot, but I'm like, how long do I want to stay in that little mud puddle? I'm kind of feeling I'm getting a little dirty. I was the kid, oh, I like to be clean. So I hop out of it. I just go, all right, enough of that. What are we going to do now? Let's have some pizza.
Yeah, I think that everything that you said is really important, and because people feel like they don't have control or that it's bigger than them. I mean, you just spoke it in a beautiful way. We have influence over all of it, and most of all, we have influence over ourselves. I had to laugh at your doctor's appointment and the colonoscopy because my doctor was like, when I declined, and they were like, "You don't understand. I'm your doctor, and I'm recommending it." And I was like, "I appreciate and I'm grateful that you're my doctor and recommending it, and my choice is to decline your recommendation." Like,
Yes. And
it
see,
was just like, we do still have autonomy over ourselves. And sometimes I feel like people don't realize that they're allowed to say no.
yes. And I even asked my doctor, I said, you have read about metaphysics, haven't you? I mean, I figure I'll be the
I,
doctor.
I'm, yeah, I'm with you. Like, if I really intuitively felt like there was something going on or I needed it, like, I would be there in a heartbeat. And I mean, that's the thing, is I work in healthcare, but my personal healthcare is very different than traditional healthcare, and I'm pretty healthy and doing pretty well in life, so I'm good with it.
Yes.
There's a time and a place for all of it and each of it.
And this excites me with what you just said because it ties into your earlier major question about how do we see ourselves evolving? What's next? I really feel that we all have that ability to, our bodies, are a gift. They're amazing. I mean, we can, they can heal themselves. And I'm not saying anything against the medical field.
No, I
Boy, especially
understand.
emergency surgery. Oh, you're
Mhm.
going to need some help. But a lot of these problems happen over time. We have to be really careful what we're putting into our body, what's
Yeah.
around our body. And the most that you can do is find that way to find peace, allowing people to just
Yeah.
say or do whatever they, as long as they're not physically hurting people, but they can say what they need to say, but we don't have to buy into it. And I think that, like this podcast today, I think it's going to be elevating consciousness with the people, obviously, that hear it and watch it. But I do believe everything we're doing right now together is creating an energetic, wave, so to speak. And so it's going out, and the sound of it is going out, and it's going to uplift. Rather than educate, it's going to elevate. And I love that idea. And that is what we're creating. So all of the people that are in a, let's say, a heavier or more negative vibe, so to speak, energy vibe, that's the invitation. Come on, let's come up here where it feels better. And suddenly you have forgotten. I know that when I get the few times in the past when I've gotten a cold, I want to go watch a comedy
Mm.
because I feel better.
And
And
there's
when,
power in laughter. There's energy in that. That's a
yeah, I'm,
frequency.
I'm distracting myself from that reality alone, and I'm creating a better reality for myself. When my mom died and I was so sad, I never missed an appointment because I was focused on helping. I was not focusing on the sad part. It was the best thing for me. So I think it's just really something to consider, that this each one of us are a gift. We're created magnificently in ways we still don't understand everything, and that's okay. But what we do know and we can prove is that we are magnets. So, you know, understand that what you're feeling is the magnet. It's that energy.
Right.
Feeling is energy.
Absolutely. So, Carolyn, we've talked about it. Divine intelligence is always guiding us. What are your thoughts on why so many people feel disconnected from it?
Well, uh, I think that they are so into the physical world, they're either working too much, they're distracted, they're too busy, they're tired. They may
Mm.
be angry, they might be in relationships that aren't good. They may be their work may not be their happy place. So they're in every moment they've somehow gotten themselves into situations that aren't for them, and I've been in those situations before. I That's when I knew I needed to change. I love being a financial advisor. I was one for 15 years, but I started getting bored. If you're getting bored and I was
Mm.
complaining to my husband. He said, dang, I don't care what you do, but I'm so tired of hearing you complain, right? And so I said, thank you for I think sometimes we have to be a little more kindly honest with people and say, hey, maybe you're ready for a change. What are your options? And that's why I love being a coach, because I'm going to say, oh, yeah, you want to do a retreat? Do one. Experience it. It might change your life. So,
Okay. So, what role does self love play in all of that?
well, I mean, it's everything, because if you're going to self love yourself, oh, you're going to get good at soothing yourself. You're going to get good at saying, oh, I'm pretty sure that's a big mud puddle. I think I want to wave to them instead of go jump in it with them, bless them, and move on. So I mean, I say be a really, really guard your energy. It's a gift. This body, this you as a spiritual being, it's a super gift. So you want to be very protective of it and ask for help if you need it. If you're in a situation that you think, oh, I don't know how to get out of this situation, ask for help. Ask your spiritual team, ask God, ask for help. People will help you, and angels will help you.
So, do you have daily spiritual practices for deepening your connections?
Yes, as I said, I'm talking to my spiritual team pretty much all day. I do meditate probably for an hour to two a day, but they say you can do it for 15 minutes. I say, why would you only do it for 15 minutes? It's so great. I remember when I asked that first medium, I said, how, if I were like you, how could I expand? And she said one word, and she said, meditate. So I did. And I wake up somewhere between 5 and 6 almost every day, but I don't always have to get out of bed. So that to me, I don't even have to go anywhere. I just lay there and meditate. And sometimes I fall asleep. We're so, I, I can't tell you how many people try to make meditation really difficult. I said, it's okay if you can't quite get relaxed, but you will get there. And some people listen to music. Like I said, I can go on a walk. I'm meditating.
I think that that's important because I found meditating painful.
Mm,
Like it was, I was just so, it seemed impossible for me.
yeah.
And the harder I tried, the more painful it got.
Hmm.
And then I had someone say to me, well, you love to sit in front of a campfire in the backyard all the time. Like, I watch you do that for years. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, that's one of my happy places. Just, get a fire in the back. And they're like, you're meditating as you're sitting there staring into it.
Yes.
When you come to visit me and we walk to the Gulf and we sit on our bench and we watch the sunset, you're meditating. And I'm like, that's meditating? So to me, it like took maybe decade, like a long time to get past this meditation block that I had, that it was simpler and it wasn't some cookbook kind of unattainable thing. Because to me, for a very long time, it felt very unattainable.
Hmm. And I'm glad we're talking about this further because you are so right. We're into such a culture where, again, the overuse of our left brain, logic, details, right, wrong. I mean, it's a wonder. I mean, I think our health is reflecting all of this. We're
Oh,
just, I mean, we're tense. We're like, and I do think it's a time for us to be very creative in how we meditate and expand that definition. Um, I mean, people, they say that people that daydream are
I do that.
are very highly intuitive. Oh, I remember as a kid just laying out on the grass and looking up into the sky. I think I probably twirled my hair a little bit, anything to relax a little more. And just like, I don't even know where I went, but I can still feel what that felt like. So I daydream, I visualize, I, uh, my guides always tell me they love working with me because I just don't make anything hard. I now do even the instantaneous alignment. Some people call it healing. I mean, with the medical community, I stay away from that term. It's not medical, but it's spontaneous healing.
Hmm.
That's available to us.
It's real.
Jesus did it. I mean, if you read any
Yeah.
of those stories, he was walking around you, and you.
Yep.
So, and then, before he left, he said, John 14, he said, everything I can do, so can you, even more. And I remember reading that and I was like, I mean, what? I don't think Jesus was kidding. And so
Oh, no.
I think when we find information, whether it's in the Bible, whether it's on a podcast, in a book, I think if we resonate with it, oh, that is the beautiful magnetic forces coming to help you. And if it's significant to you, pay attention to it and if it's if it's good and significant, let that help you. Let that help you define the world you're creating and your experiences.
Oh, beautiful. Carolyn, for listeners who want to work with you, what would that look like and how do they connect with you?
Well, you can get my book, Opening to Divine Intervention, on Amazon. But you can go to my website, karoleenfober.com, and there's lots of different things there. But I would love for everybody to take my free intuition assessment. It's really short, 6 questions. You're going to learn a lot in those 6 questions. You're going to find out kind of where you are and what maybe are some next steps for you. I mean, I have an intuition mastery acceleration program. You can look at that too. But yeah, those would be the easiest ways.
Okay, I'll make sure I get that in the show notes and up on our website also. So, what's next for you?
Well, I'm doing lots of podcasts right now.
Awesome.
about 30 in 90
You
days.
could probably write a book on podcasts
I probably, I
on your
probably could.
experience doing them, because I'm going to guess that they're all very, very different experiences.
Oh, very different experiences. But I've been told by my guide, I mean, I still work with clients and all of that, but I've been told that that's kind of the next arena is to reach more people with the simple messages.
You know, it's interesting. And it's just as you're saying that, because I also talk to a lot of people on these shows also. And that seems to be a very consistent theme right now, especially with people who've had big practices and have worked with clients for years. And you can tell they have a passion and like it's a love for them, is they're all receiving messages and direction from the unseen side of things
Yes.
to drop their practices and go bigger,
Yes.
to reach more people. So I just am going to share that with you because I'm starting to pay more and more attention to that, because I'm seeing just a shift with it, because we're not a big community yet. We are a big community, but we're growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a shift that I'm seeing within the community. Very interesting. Hmm.
Well, and not only expand the reach, but every industry. We need it more into medicine. We need it into everything, politics, law, everywhere. So I that's one of the things I say to my
Yeah.
spiritual team. I say, okay, where are we going next?
I love it. I love that you are not like locked into a track.
Oh yeah,
Like you're just ready to go wherever and whenever you're needed. That's
absolutely.
great. So, as we're winding up at the happy hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast, we have 3 questions we ask each of our guests.
Oh, okay.
Number one, if and I'm excited because I think you're going to be a super super fun person to do this with.
Okay.
If you could have a conversation with any spiritual teacher, mystic, or enlightened being, living or past, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Wow. Well, that is a major question. I will tell you that Wayne Dyer certainly popped in, and I did manifest meeting him, and he kissed me on my cheek
Uh,
within 2 days of me saying I would meet him. Um,
Love it.
but I also think, I mean, it would be so fascinating to talk with Jesus. I've been told in readings that I was with him on Atlantis, and this is going into places that I don't normally go. But
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Dyer and Jesus, let's put those two together. I will tell you that I did get to be on a podcast with Neil Donald Walsh, and that
Oh,
was
wow. How cool.
really exciting for me. Um, and my questions that I would ask as well: one, how are we doing? And of course, any advice.
Oh, that makes sense. So, number 2, if we're all, I won't even say if, we are all divine beings having a human experience, what do you believe is the ultimate purpose of this journey? And how do we navigate the tension between spiritual truth and everyday struggles?
Yes, I love this. I really believe that we are here to evolve. And history proves that to be correct because we're always changing. And I think the better definition is how can we evolve for the benefit of all? So, evolving for the benefit of all is to me what we're doing.
Yep. And we're certainly here for a huge shift for the betterment of all. And
Yes.
it's exciting times. Number 3, if you had to describe your spiritual journey as a movie or a book title, what would it be?
Oh my
I think this
gosh.
question was like made for you.
Wow. Well, the working title of Opening to Divine Intervention was My Life of Divine Intervention. And then a subtitle, Just Becoming Closer to God. I mean, closer to who we were meant to be.
I feel like just in the very little time I know you that it would be a mini series and not a movie.
I love that. That is fun.
So, any last words last words and thoughts you would like to leave with the listeners?
Well, I do love quotes, and I did mention the ones earlier by Steve Jobs and Albert Einstein. I don't want you to miss it. I want you to have all these beautiful divine experiences because they are so helpful. So I wrote the book. I work with clients. I'm on the podcast. And the reason why is because I want that for you. I want you to experience what is yours, rightfully yours, and is going to make your life better, only better, even when you have to learn something.
True. Beautiful, very beautiful. Karoleen, thank you so much for your time and for being a guest on the show. I appreciate all the meaningful wisdom, insights shared today, and honestly, just the fun. You have such a good, fun, uplifting energy. It's beautiful. Thank you. And as always, for all our listeners out there, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Until next time, remember, embrace that wild soul. Thank you, Karoleen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Wild Soul Gatherings Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. To learn more about our guests, please go to our website, wildsoulsgathering.com. We're very eager to hear from our listeners what you thought of the episode, topics you might like us to cover in the future, your thoughts on spirituality, questions you may have. Please feel free to send us an email at wildsoulsgathering@gmail.com. This is your host, Dr. Sandra Marie, sending each of you peace and love. Until we meet again, embrace your wild soul.